What if love was so powerful that even death could not silence it? The echoes of that question still drift across the winds of Portugal, carried through the ruins of ancient castles and whispered along the riverbanks where history once bled. It is a story of passion and vengeance, of loyalty and madness, a story that proves how love can defy both kings and death itself. The year was 1355, and in the heart of medieval Portugal lived a prince named Peter, whose love for a woman named Inês de Castro would shake the foundations of the kingdom and leave a scar that time could never heal. Peter, heir to the Portuguese throne, was not an ordinary prince. He was known for his strength, courage, and a will that often clashed with his father, King Alfonso IV. In a world ruled by alliances and royal marriages, love was never a choice. It was a luxury few could afford. But fate has its own ways. When Peter was married to Princess Constanza of Castile, his heart had no part in the union. Constanza was noble, kind, but their marriage was political. Among her ladies-in-waiting was a young woman of Spanish nobility, Inés de Castro. One glance between them was enough to change everything. Inés was strikingly beautiful, her skin pale as ivory, her hair like woven gold, her eyes gentle yet filled with depth. She carried herself with quiet grace, unaware that her presence would soon ignite a love that would outlast centuries. The court bustled with music, laughter, and ceremonies, but Peter saw only Inés. Their love grew in secret, hidden behind palace walls and moonlit gardens. Letters were exchanged under candlelight, words written with trembling hands, and hearts too brave to stay silent. Even as the kingdom watched Peter perform his duties as prince, his heart belonged only to her. When Constanza died giving birth to Peter's son, the court expected the prince to move on, to remarry and secure another political alliance. But Peter refused. Instead, he withdrew from the royal palace and went to live with Inés in the quiet countryside near Coimbra. There they found peace among rivers and orchards, raising their children far from the noise of power. Their small estate became a world of love, a forbidden paradise where Peter was no longer a prince, just a man who had found his heart's home. Yet peace is something kings rarely allow. Whispers began spreading through the court like poison in wine. The nobles warned King Alfonso that his son's obsession with Inés threatened the very stability of Portugal. They feared her powerful Castilian family might use their influence to take control. "Your son's heart," they said, "is clouded by love, and his loyalty is slipping away." The king's heart grew heavy with worry. He loved his son deeply, but a ruler's love must bow before the throne. He summoned Peter to end the affair, but Peter refused, declaring that he would rather lose his crown than the woman he loved. Inés was sent away once by the king's command, exiled to Castile in hopes the distance would cool their passion. But love laughs at distance. Peter followed her, refusing to obey, and soon she returned to Portugal at his side. The court gasped at his defiance. Even the king's patience began to crack. For years the tension brewed, father against son, crown against heart. The council demanded action, and one fateful day the king gave in. He ordered the unthinkable, to end the threat by ending the woman who caused it. It was a cold morning in January 1355. The skies hung low, gray and heavy, as 3 royal assassins rode through the gates of Santa Clara, where Inés lived with her children. She saw them coming from the window, fear rising in her chest. She gathered her children, clutching them close as the men entered. Falling to her knees, she begged for mercy, not for herself, but for her innocent children. Her voice trembled, yet her dignity did not break. But the king's orders were final. One of the men hesitated, shaken by her tears, But another raised his sword, and with one swift motion, the deed was done. Her body fell silent, and the hall was filled with the cries of her children. When Peter returned and learned what had happened, his grief was beyond words. Witnesses said he tore at his hair and struck his chest in agony, crying out Inés's name again and again. For days he locked himself away, refusing to eat or speak. The world outside meant nothing. The woman he loved, the mother of his children, was gone, slain by his own father's command. From the ashes of his sorrow rose something darker, an oath he swore before heaven and earth that he would avenge her death, no matter how long it took, no matter who it destroyed. The years passed slowly. King Alfonso grew old and weary, burdened by guilt. Peter refused to see him again. Father and son never reconciled. When the old king finally died, the crown passed to Peter, and the time for vengeance had come. As soon as he became king, he unleashed his wrath upon those who had murdered Inés. 2 of the assassins were captured, dragged before him in chains. Peter showed no mercy. He ordered their hearts to be torn out, one from the chest, one from the back, declaring that since they had no heart when they killed Inés, they did not deserve to keep one in life. His vengeance was complete, but his soul found no peace. In the years that followed, Peter ruled Portugal with strength and justice, but his heart remained buried with Inés. He spent his nights alone, visiting her tomb, speaking to her as though she still sat beside him. Then one day he made a shocking declaration, one that would change how history remembered them. He claimed that he and Inés had been secretly married before her death, that she was, by right, the Queen of Portugal. The court murmured in disbelief, but the king produced witnesses. No one dared to question their sovereign. Then came a moment so chilling, so unforgettable, that it became legend. Peter ordered Inés's body to be exhumed from her grave. Her remains were dressed in royal robes, a crown placed upon her lifeless head, and she was seated upon the throne beside him. One by one, the nobles were forced to approach her and kiss her cold hand in homage to their queen. The hall was silent, filled with horror and awe. To some, it was madness. To others, the purest act of love ever seen. But to Peter, it was justice. She had been denied her crown in life. He would give it to her in death. Even in her second burial, Peter ensured she was honored as royalty. He ordered the construction of 2 magnificent marble tombs in the monastery of Alcobaça, carved with scenes of angels and sorrow, of love and eternity. Her tomb faced his, positioned so that when the day of judgment came, the lovers would rise and gaze upon one another once more. Visitors from across Europe came to see the tombs, whispering of the king who crowned a corpse for love. As the years passed, Peter's reign softened. Though his vengeance had been cruel, he became known as a fair ruler, earning the title Peter the Just. Yet behind that justice was a broken heart that never healed. He carried Inés's memory with him to his final breath, dying with her name upon his lips. His tomb was placed opposite hers, just as he had ordered, and in death they were finally united. Centuries later, travelers who visit Alcobaça still pause before those tombs, feeling the weight of a story carved into stone. The marble faces of Peter and Inés lie side by side, their eyes closed, their hands reaching toward eternity. And in the silence of that sacred hall, one can almost hear the faint echo of their love, a love that defied kings, death, and time itself. The story of Inés de Castro and King Peter is not just a royal tragedy. It is a reflection of the eternal struggle between power and passion, between duty and the human heart. It reminds us that love can rise above fear, that even in the face of cruelty, It can leave a mark the world cannot erase. For centuries, poets have written of their story, painters have captured it on canvas, and the people of Portugal still whisper her name with sorrow and awe. And so, their tale becomes more than history. It becomes a lesson. True love may be punished, silenced, or torn apart, but it never dies. Even when the world turns against it, it finds a way to live on. In memory, in legend, in the beating hearts of those who hear their story. The moral is simple and eternal. Kingdoms fade, crowns rust, but love, true love, endures beyond death. For in the end, Peter and Inez proved that no throne, no sword, and no grave can destroy what was written by the heart.